The first mega trend going on that is affecting everybody, not surprisingly, is the digital impact. The digital impact is affecting everything we're doing in our lives and in our businesses. It is affecting how we communicate. It is affecting expectations of 24/7 access to information. It's creating a proliferation of choice. It's creating an expectation of speed. But it's also having a very ironic impact on the power of the individual, and we can talk about this a bit more later, but also the power of community, which we've talked about over the last day or so. And so the digital impact is affecting everything in a very, very big way. The second major impact going on, which again we've talked about, is this whole millennial and Gen Z impact on the culture. And it's easy, we talk about them so often, and I thought Ari's presentation yesterday was extraordinary in capturing what it is, what they're about. But the impact that millennials and Gen Zs are having, and I would urge anyone in this room to think about the fact that it's not just that generation we're talking about. It's their impact on generations around them, the older generations, the younger generations. But that's the force that is changing the world today. And they are changing things like life chapters. Life chapters for them and what's permeating the culture, no longer long and linear, it's chapter-oriented. Engaging with people or organizations can come and go depending on how connected and engaged they are. The way in which we communicate with another is very much an impact of Gen Z and millennial. And then finally, how Gen Zs and millennials view authority and institutions is creating a challenge for any big institution, whether it's a big company, a big brand, or any large established group, to rethink how they're speaking to the culture now. And then the third big trend going on when we bring it all together is this moment of unrest. And when you look at whether it's terrorism, you look at geopolitical shifts and who's coming into power in which countries, you can look at political instability, you look at volatility in the marketplaces. It's creating uncertainty. So while at this moment we have a lot of opportunities, we've got this backdrop of unrest, which is causing, for consumers, a good deal of cynicism, a good deal of skepticism, concern about the future, and that's more or less tempering this moment of seemingly endless opportunity because of the digital age. So it's an interesting combination that's affecting us all. One of the thoughts that we talked a lot about at the Estée Lauder companies and the executive leadership team is the idea of share of spend. And this, again, is a millennial and Gen Z impact. It's very easy for any of us, whether we're a person working on a brand, a person working at a foundation, or a person working at a not-for-profit, it's easy to think of our competition, if you will, as the other not-for-profit in my space, or how am I going to give my not-for-profit dollars. In reality, the way the culture is going is a much more blended approach to how they view their lives. Where the idea of giving back, the idea of what I want to buy, the idea of how I want to invest my time and money are all blended. And as a result of that, we in the not-for-profit world, because I do a lot of development work for the Point Foundation, we are looking at everything from the impact of the tax changes and what that means for individual giving. That hasn't come up in our meeting so far. But that's a profound effect on individual giving. But what we're learning is that because of the millennial and Gen Z impact, their view of life is a blended one. I know from my industry, the beauty industry, that health and wellness are more linked with beauty than ever before. And previously it might have been thought of in two ways, but it's one. I assume many of you are familiar with Equinox, the health clubs. They're in many, many major cities. If you look at their logo, I mean, what they say is, it's not fitness, it's life. And I happen to know the CMO there, and she said to me, our research says people want to incorporate this into their lives. It's not a separate part of their lives. I believe it's the same for selection of brands, and that for your daughter, the fact that the brand gave back is an important part of that consideration. It's being blended in. And how people choose to support and what they support is how a not-for-profit or how a product or a service fits into their overall concept of life. And that's where those words, relevancy and authenticity, come in, which are very overused words, but I will say they're very real words. That's how they factor together into this one seamless world of decision-making that is very much at the moment right now.
Yeah.
We have a concept that I'd love to share with you called roots and anchors. I'm not sure if people have looked at that in their own organizations. But roots and anchors is something I'd encourage any group to brainstorm with your leadership team or with your overall teams. Roots are what is sacred to your brand and what give you nourishment to continue to grow in different directions. And they must stay sacred always. The anchors are the assumptions that you make along the way that somehow become part of truth with a capital T that keep you in one place. So in the cosmetic, I'll give you one of my brief example. In my experience, when I was running Bumble and Bumble Hair Care, it was positioned and promised to be a brand that's only available in professional salons, prestige salons. Never will be sold anywhere else. Well, marketplace changed. Retail sales in the salon channel were going down, and it was going up in the retail prestige channel. We had to make the decision to switch and to diversify our channels, go into Sephora, and deal with my existing group of customers. So that was an example of saying the root is that we're a brand about great hairdressing, and we're a brand about great advice for hairdressing. The anchor was we can only sell in one channel.
Right.
And so by getting rid of that anchor, we grew and figured out ways to protect our base.
Right.
And that's a challenge I think many of you would have, is how do you reach a new audience while at the same time not losing a core, which is central to a business. Management and leadership of a brand or a company is not always adept at functioning within the digital world. What we did at the Lauder Companies is our CEO created what was called a reverse mentoring program. I was telling someone about it last night. Every senior executive, the brand presidents, the CFO, COO, everybody was assigned a younger employee. And they had to volunteer. The millennial had to apply for the program to be in it. But every month, I sat down with the woman who was helping me, and I saw the digital world through her eyes. We went on shopping groups, shopping expeditions together to see retail experiences as a management team with all of our reverse mentors, no kidding, to see retail through their eyes. So I would recommend that if you're an organization where your leadership is making your decisions, if you don't have that deep connection and innate awareness, as I did not, utilize the talent in your organization to get it to help make decisions. People sometimes confuse a collaborative environment with a non-decisive environment. It's when the two come together that you create the right kind of environment. And I want to piggyback onto Paula's slide about you got it. I had a boss who often said, the answer is in the room. And it was a reminder that the talent that's in the organization always needs help, support, outside perspective, but often the answer is in the room, and it's wrong to ignore that.
Right.
You have to nurture it.